Hello, today I am going to be talking about the highest rated books on my TBR according to Goodreads. First, I would like to thank Andrew from the channel You Could Be Reading More for inspiration for this video. Recently, Andrew did videos like these talking about highest and lowest rated books that have been read. I don't know if Andrew did for the TBR as well, but I'm going to do that. So I recently did the highest and lowest rated books I've read, and now I'm going to be talking about the ones on my TBR. So in a separate video, I will be talking about the lowest rated as well. My criteria for this video is I will be talking about books that have an average rating of 4.5 or higher, and these will be a little different than the books I've read because I haven't actually read these, so I'll be talking about if I think I will enjoy it that much, and if I can guess why it has that rating, if I can guess why people like it so much. If you've read any of these books, you may give me your spoiler-free thoughts in the comments, or maybe if you agree with the average rating. Of course, the average rating is just a culmination of everybody's ratings put together. I don't think that necessarily means the book is good or bad. I think it's subjective. Some books will have more people like them than others, but I will have to read each of these books for myself and develop my own opinion. Some of these books I might get to pretty soon. Some of them it might be a few more years, but I am excited to get to them someday. So I'll start with the nonfiction. Most of these books are nonfiction, and already that kind of makes sense to me. I think that rating a nonfiction book is different because with fiction, it's a whole story. There are all these things to consider, like the pacing and the plot and the characters and all these things. And nonfiction can still be complicated to make good, but that's more of like, is the information good? Do I agree with the subject? You know, things like that. It's not really the same kind of writing. So it makes sense to me that a lot of these books are nonfiction. The first book is Lily's Promise, How I Survived Auschwitz and Found the Strength to Live by Lily Eber and Dove Foreman. This book currently has an average rating of 4.58 out of over 8,000 ratings. That's pretty high. This book I was familiar with because I don't use TikTok anymore, but I used to follow the creators on TikTok. I believe Lily passed away within the last few years, but she was a Holocaust survivor, and her account was helped with by Dove, who I believe was her grandson, and she would make videos talking about her experiences and educating people on the history. And I followed them. I thought that was interesting, and this was a book that they wrote together. I think that this would be a really informational, important book to read. Without reading it, I can understand why it has such a high rating. A lot of people probably found it very honest and important. So yeah, I think that rating makes sense, and I think it'll be good for me to read it when I do. The subtitle of the book interests me as well, Finding the Strength to Live, because that sounds like a really hard thing to go through, and so I would be interested in learning how she coped with it and I think she lived to be in her 90s. The second book is Dancing the Dream, Poems and Reflections. This is Michael Jackson's poetry book. Has an average rating of 4.68 out of over 1,000, and this makes sense for me to have a high rating because I think it has a very specific audience. People who are fans of Michael Jackson will read this and most likely enjoy it, compared to it being, you know, like I said, a fictional story. So I think to begin with, typically only certain people will want to read this in the first place. And yeah, I guess a lot of people enjoyed it. I think this book might be kind of rare, so I don't know if I will find it anytime soon, but it is on my TBR. Hopefully I will read it someday. I have to look at the notebook because a lot of these have like long subtitles, especially with the nonfiction. So the third book is Girl Unmasked, How Uncovering My Autism Saved My Life by Emily Cady. Emily Cady is a neurodivergent content creator, advocate, whatever you want to call her, and author. This is a book she wrote that's basically like a memoir, I guess. Memoirs typically, the ones I've read at least, are by people who are already famous, but they don't always have to be that way. Sometimes it is just some regular person's story, and that does seem to be the case with this, though she has gained quite the social media following. I find her posts very informative and educational and very validating. I follow a lot of autism-related pages, so she's just one of the many, but I do look forward to reading this book. I've seen her post parts of her book on social media, and I find them relatable. She has, like, lists and stuff, and yeah, I've just related with what she said so far, and I think it'll be really interesting to hear her specific perspective, because I think in her case, she was diagnosed maybe later in life, maybe as a teenager. I don't think she was, like, a really little kid. It has an average rating of 4.56 out of over 1,000. And I think that's understandable. It's probably a very important book, probably pretty well written. It's probably helped a lot of people learn things and either help others in their lives or they see a lot of themselves in it, or both. So yeah, I'll probably enjoy this book whenever I get to it. And based on the subtitle, How It Saved Her Life, it sounds like it was very important for her. I know that for a lot of people it is that way. Once they get a diagnosis or learn that about themselves, that very much can be life-changing, even life-saving. So I am interested in hearing her profound story someday. The fourth book is You'd Be Paranoid Too If Everyone Was Out to Get You by Austin Knight. I think there's a longer title to that, like a subtitle. Maybe it's like a collection of stories or something. I don't know, I'll put it on screen, but that currently has an average rating of 4.76 out of over 700. Again, I think with similar to Michael Jackson, this is kind of the thing where like a specific fan base will read this in the first place and enjoy it. This isn't really a memoir that's been popular like outside of that community, that fandom. I think this would be considered a memoir. This was written by Austin Knight, the singer of the band Waterparks, a band that I enjoy quite a bunch. I liked them more so when I was a few years younger, but I still like them now. And this is a book that he wrote. It's like really big, and I think it might have photos in it, and I think it has like, I don't know, information about his life, advice, and stuff like that. I don't know. I haven't gotten my hands on it yet, but I do hope to read it someday, and I'll probably enjoy it. It'll probably be interesting. I do enjoy learning more about the artists that I like and hearing from them and hearing their stories and the things that they've struggled with and overcome and how they've dealt with things, and maybe kind of learning more about their art and what it means and all that. So I think this will be interesting whenever I do read it, and I can understand why it has a high rating. The fifth book is John and Paul, A Love Story and Songs by Ian Leslie. This currently has an average rating of 4.51 out of over 6,000, and this is some sort of biography about John Lennon and Paul McCartney, and I don't know, I guess it's got a focus on their relationship. I don't think it's like a biography on the Beatles as a whole. It probably has a focus on them, because there are other biographies more specifically about the Beatles. I assume that this is kind of about the two of them and their story together, which sounds interesting to me. I am interested in learning more about that relationship and their history. And again, a lot of these are biographies or books written by artists, so it makes sense to me that these have a high rating because they're read and rated by big fans of these artists. And yeah, I just got the thought of another reason to do these videos is just to talk about some of the many books on my TBR and to share that excitement with people. The next book is the first of these that I actually own, and that is Friendship Skills for Neurodivergent Adults, A Guide for the Anxious, Uniquely Wired, and Easily Distracted by Carolyn McGuire. Carolyn McGuire is another social media person, content creator, influencer, whatever you want to call her, that I follow. I believe she's a social coach specifically for neurodivergent people, and when I heard about this book, it sounded interesting to me. I would love to read this. I just recently got this. In fact, you haven't even seen the haul video yet. This will come out a little bit before. But yeah, this is a book that she wrote recently, and it sounds very much like something that would appeal to me. My friendships are very important to me, and I like to do what I can to do my best with them, and I'd love to learn more about how other neurodivergent people operate, because I mean, I understand how I operate, but even other neurodivergent people, even if they got the same diagnosis as you, there are different levels, different ways that people experience things based on so many factors. I'd love to learn more about how my friends operate, and just, I'm excited to read what she has to say in this book and hopefully learn some things that will help me out. This is a pretty new book, and when I wrote down the notes for this video, which was sometime in June 2026, this book had an average rating of 4.90 out of over 200, which is a very high rating. Now, if it only had like 5 ratings, I wouldn't have included it, but I think if it's got like maybe at least 100, I can include it. That is still a very high average. I could understand why this has a high rating. I think it does for the reasons that I think I'll like it. It just sounds very useful, and it sounds like the author has a good understanding and knowledge of these topics, and yeah, it's probably a really good book. I have hope with it. I have a lot of faith in it. The last of the nonfiction books is another pretty new release that was just released this year. The Cherry Tree Theory, A Simple Guide to Stop Effing Up Your Life by Rich and Rox Pink. Again, neurodivergent content creators that I follow. In this case, it is a husband and wife duo. Talk about autism and ADHD, and I know that they have had quite a bit of struggles themselves. I think he had an addiction to gambling, and I think one or both of them had issues with drugs or alcohol at one point, or both, and yeah, a lot of things like that. And I think it'll be really interesting to learn more about their story and hear their advice, especially when it's coming from neurodivergent people themselves, because I've heard some people say, like, I wish ADHD advice could be written by people who actually have ADHD, because then they'll understand it better. I am open to reading by people who don't actually have the conditions, but I do think it is so much better when you know right away that they already know how you feel and they're already similar, so you can trust their advice a little more and know that it's worked for them, rather than them not even struggling with the problem in the first place and then being like, here's some advice. And this has an average rating of 4.65 out of over 200. That's pretty good. It sounds like it will be very useful. Again, that's why I think a lot of these nonfiction books have such high ratings, because they're probably just useful, and if they're well written and have helped people, then that's great. So I'm really excited to get to reading this book someday. Then we have a few fiction books. The first is Kitty by Elle McNichol. This book currently has an average rating of 4.56 out of over 1,000 ratings. This is in the A Kind of Spark universe. I believe all those books are technically standalones, but some take place like in the past or in the future compared to the others, so you don't need to read one to understand the other. I have read A Kind of Spark, and I do want to read all the other books of hers in that universe. Kitty is, so the main character of A Kind of Spark, her name is Addie. Kitty is Addie's older sister. She has 2 older twin sisters. Kitty is also neurodivergent, like Addie, and I believe Kitty takes place before the events of A Kind of Spark, and it's about that character. It's from her perspective, and so I'm looking forward to reading that someday. I think I can understand why this has a high rating. I have read one of her books and I'm very close to finishing another of her books, and I have so far felt that she's a really good author. I'm really enjoying her work. This isn't nonfiction, but with that neurodivergence understanding and representation, I think that's really important. I think that's what a lot of people like about it. They really resonate with it. It's a really important kind of representation, and they probably just really like that, and I'm sure I'll like it too. But besides that, I think she just writes good stories. So yeah, I think this probably deserves that high rating. I can't say for sure yet, but I'm sure I will probably like it. It will probably be 5 stars. If not, then 4. I doubt it would be much lower than that. And then the next book is another book in that series, and that is her book, A Glimmer of Change. That was released more recently. It has an average rating of 4.56 out of over 1,000. Oh, that's the same rating. I think this one is also from Kitty's perspective. I don't remember if it's before or after the events of the book Kitty, but I believe that's another book that has to do with that character. And the reason why I think it has a high rating and the reason why I think I'll enjoy it are pretty much the same reasons that I feel about Kitty. I don't really remember the differences between the plots or timelines with these two books, but yeah, probably the same reasons. It's got that good neurodivergent representation. I'm sure it's a good emotional, informational story. I'm sure it'll break down stereotypes and myths, and I'm sure it will be inspiring and maybe emotional, and yeah, I'll probably enjoy it. From what I have read of her so far, I definitely think that Elle McNichol is a great author, and if you're looking for some autism representation, I think that she does very well with that. These books I've all mentioned are middle grade, but she has written for older audiences as well. She is certainly on her way to becoming one of my favorite authors. The last 2 books are Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I decided to put those 2 together because they're in the same series, but they don't have the exact same rating. The Order of the Phoenix has an average rating of 4.50, and the Deathly Hallows has an average of 4.62. It's all jumbled together. Apparently, Half-Blood Prince is supposed to be involved in this as well. These are the only of the main Harry Potter books I haven't read yet, so that's why they're on here. I've read the first 4, hope to read the rest at some point. Hopefully I'll continue it this year. It's been 6 years since I've read any of it. Yes, so to include the Half-Blood Prince, that has an average of 4.58, and that's out of millions of reviews. So as for why these have such a high rating, I mean, they're very popular. A lot of people like them. I like them. I have seen all the movies. I plan on reading all the books. I think a lot of people really like this story. I think the world building is probably one of the best parts of it. I think that it's got a lot of good things about it, and will just be an entertaining, inspiring story. I feel like I don't have much to say about that, but that's because, like I said in a previous video, I feel like when I think of Harry Potter, I'm typically thinking about the movie versions of each installment. I really need to read the books because I've kind of forgotten what they're written like. I mean, I remember it a little bit, but I need to read them for myself to really see, like, what is good about the writing, what's enjoyable about it. It could just be that they're fun. I mean, there's more to it than that. I do remember there being, like, good lessons and good wisdom and things like that, but I do look forward to reading that for myself and really seeing. But yeah, I can understand why these have such a high rating. I think that to a lot of people, they are fun adventures. So there we have it. I enjoyed talking about those books. I'm excited to read each of them someday, and thank you for watching.